What the hell is wrong with you? The only thing that's ever been consistent in my life is that question. Welcome to the ADHD Untangled podcast. My name is Rosie Turner and I'm an accredited ADHD coach, yoga and Pilates instructor. But ultimately, I'm just a human being who knows what it feels like to live with ADHD. And after having 8 failed driving tests, impulsive decisions to get married and then divorce before the age of 27, and having an inability to handle any form of rejection, I've decided to dedicate my life to supporting the ADHD community. And this podcast will cover the 2 things that I love to talk about most: movement and ADHD. You will hear real life stories from real people living with ADHD. You will get advice from wellness industry and ADHD experts. So what are you waiting for? Let's get untangled and show the world what we are made of. So, who the hell are you and what is your life's mission?
That is a big question, isn't it? Straight from
no small talk.
Who am I? God. Well, I'm a very proud Northerner. I'm a proud Northerner, and I guess, you know, I'm a dad. I'm a former soldier. I'm an adventurer, but I think I'm someone who's probably spent a lot of their life trying to turn some kind of pain into purpose, I guess, in many ways. But I think my mission right now that I'm fully happy with living by is to try and be the difference that makes a difference, whether it's through adventure, whether it's through mentoring, helping young people, cadets, scouts. You know, I'm really trying to, I want to leave the world in a better place than I found it, I think. And that's not cliche. That's what I try and live by. It's a mantra that, you know, I'm certainly no angel. I'm not perfect. I'm still learning a lot. I'm still growing. I've made loads of mistakes, but I think I'm on the right path at the moment, and I hope I am. There's been a lot of turns and twists and zigs and zags, but no, I'm happy with where I'm at, I think.
I love that answer. Pain into purpose. I always say struggle into strength, which is basically the same thing, isn't it? And do you believe as well that you know, you said you want to leave the world in a better place? I think with people with ADHD, we need something meaningful in our lives. I think if we haven't, that's when we can really see us like going to destructive behaviour. Do you think that's to do with your ADHD, like always looking for that stimulation and meaning?
It's a good question. I definitely have that in terms of if I'm not working towards something that's mission focused, that's powerful, that's got purpose behind it, I dip in lots of ways. One being my mental health, I go really downhill very quickly and spiral into sort of depression, anxiety, which I've taken medication for years. But yeah, I think yeah, I've never really, outside of the military, I've always sort of had to work for myself. I think I'd really struggle to work for somebody because I'm sort of always, I want more than what most people will give me. I always want a bit more and a bit more, and almost got this relentless pursuit of chasing whatever's in my sights. And don't get me wrong, that's a positive in lots of ways, but it's also a negative I've found in my life. It's disrupted a lot of relationships through inconsistency, through poor communication, through hyper focus on work and neglecting the people around me. But it's also the thing that's allowed me to be successful in my profession, I guess.
Definitely. I so relate to that. And I call us the can't stop, won't stop kind of ADHDers, where we just can't,
I'm sure,
you know.
yeah.
And I think the thing is when we're not aware of it, I don't know about you, but when I didn't know I had ADHD and it was obviously all consuming, it was a lot worse because you wasn't even aware that was, you know,
Yeah, it's
something you was even
terrible. I
doing.
think it's even worse for the people around you because
Yeah.
you can come across as somebody who is quite selfish. I think it would be fair to say. I've often would have been called selfish, and not selfish in like, you know, people would say you're really kind, you're really generous, but they would say selfish with my time because I'm so focused on whatever it is I want to do. Um,
Yeah.
and I think as I've become more aware of that, since I've been diagnosed, I'm definitely not perfect, but I'm a lot better at realizing that you got to stop sometimes, put the handbrake on and spend some time with your loved ones, the people that matter most, and just sort of like get out the zone for a sec.
Definitely. I totally agree. I think it gives you that moment of awareness, and then it just helps you have a bit of a power of pause every now and then and make different decisions, or, you know, maybe start to slow down and appreciate what's in front of you. Let's talk about relationship patterns, because from what I heard, when you got diagnosed, that's what brought you to your diagnosis, wasn't it? Like there's some struggles within relationships. Is that true?
Yeah, definitely. I take I take full responsibility for all my faults and errors and mistakes in any relationship. I've I'm embarrassed to say really that I've probably hurt some good people. Again, not through anything malicious like cheating or anything, but just for probably being selfish with my time. And they've been putting a lot more effort into the relationship. And even though I've loved them or wanted to be with them, I'm like a workaholic, and I love what I do. And for me, getting the diagnosis, yeah, it's helped me step back and sort of be a bit more balanced, and also be. I don't think I was very empathetic in relationships. I'm very empathetic to lots of causes. Like, I love helping kids and kids who've come from challenging backgrounds and struggled. I'm super empathetic and sympathetic to them. But in relationships, I don't know why the empathy has been missing quite a bit. And I found it hard to see the world through my partner's eyes sometimes. And I think that's possibly also because they don't see my world. And I think I've probably been in relationships where, in my opinion, again, I don't want this to sound selfish, but my partner just doesn't get it. And I don't know what it is, but whatever I've got, they don't get it. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't, and I sound like I'm trying to defend myself, and I'm not. I'm just like, you know, I don't know. I think it's an ADHD thing. There's very few people who get me. And when they do get me, it's normally people who've got some of their own challenges or issues or neurodivergence going on.
Yeah. Well, it's very hard to explain, isn't it? And especially when you don't have the words at the time. You didn't know you had ADHD, and we didn't know. And it's very hard to explain why you do what it is you do and the way you are chasing what it is you're chasing, and, working towards what it is you're working towards. Because how do you explain that to someone who's not in your brain and doesn't have that
Yeah,
same
and
wiring,
you can't. I don't think you can. It's like it's hard because I like all like the relationships I've been in. They've all been good people, lovely
Mm.
people and things. But I don't know. I think because of the way I'm wired, the compatibility is just probably not right. When I look back and reflect, which is easy in hindsight. Um, but yeah, I'm never going to be, and nothing against anyone, I'm never going to be a 9 till 5 guy who comes home at 5 o'clock, finishes, and sits down in front of the TV and puts the fire on or whatever. And that's me. I'm just not that. My brain's still working the moment I shut my eyes. I'm like thinking of ideas. I'm very creative. I'm sleep with a notepad next to my bed. And I have to, that's just the way I am. And I'm a bit weird probably for a lot of people.
So has it changed like now? So in terms of like your relationships, whether it's romance or just in general, because you did say, you feel like the people around you have benefited the most from your diagnosis because, it's explained a lot. How has it helped in terms of relationship, or has it?
I think, I think when other people understand why you behave in a certain way, that's very helpful, as opposed to just being, oh, that's Jordan, that's the way he is. I think when there's actually some, I don't know whether it's some rationale or some science or some understanding of why someone acts in a certain way, that becomes very helpful for me as well, because you're not just being written off. You're not just being told, oh, he's because he's selfish or that's the way he's always been. It's actually, there's an explanation of why he's like that. And then I also think people manage me better. People in my family, people, loved ones, because they know I'm wired in a certain way, they know how to manage me, and they know how to get the best out of me, or get probably the responses that they want by approaching things in slightly different ways than they perhaps would have done before. I think also one of the biggest shifts was me letting people in and trying to, because I had a diagnosis, not that it changes anything, but it allows you to then start talking about it without it just, it's not just my opinion. It's someone, a medical professional has said,
Yeah,
this is why you're like this. And now I've got a bit of a case, I feel, for the
exactly.
way I'm wired, the way I am. But I want to emphasize as well, it doesn't change anything in the sense that you are who you are, and you still have to take full responsibility. You can never use ADHD as an excuse or as a justification. It's, we're all human, we're all different, but you are always responsible for your behaviors and actions. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. So you can still have ADHD and be a bad person or a good person, or, whatever. Ultimately, it's down to you to live your life the way you want to.
Definitely. I always say it's an explanation, not an excuse, to use it as like a vehicle, isn't it? To show up as I suppose, more authentic and a more meaningful life. You can use it for that as something really positive instead of letting it just run the show in the ways that you might not want it to.
No,
Um,
exactly.
have you found as well in your relationships, because for me, I've looked at like my family and started connecting the dots. A lot of people that, I mean, none of them have got a diagnosis, but I can look around at like my parents and stuff, and there's little things that I used to maybe be quite sensitive to, like, I don't know, like with RSD and stuff from my parents. But now I understand and can see their own neurodivergence in them. And in my head, it's just sort of let go of a lot of stories I was telling myself as well about other people. Do you find that's happened to you in your relationships?
I definitely see it. I feel like I can pick it up in not necessarily. I don't think I've got a lot of it in my immediate family or anything because they're a
Yeah.
lot more. Everyone is a lot more chilled in my family and a lot different to me. I'm sort of like 100 mile an hour in everything I'm doing, whereas my parents, my sister, those people are just they're quite chill people. They're happy with their lives, ticking along, and I wish I was a bit more like that, to be honest.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
yeah, but I do see it in other people. Like I work with people sometimes, or I don't know, maybe we're filming a project for a brand or something, and I'm like, you can go in my head. I'm going, you've definitely got ADHD. The way you're behaving, the way you're conducting yourself, the way your brain's working. But I don't need to say anything or talk about it
No,
to him. I'm just like, but I can, yeah, I feel like I can see it in lots of other people, and I think we're all wired differently anyway. ADHD or no ADHD. One thing I've learned in life is we're all wired very differently, and often we're a sort of product of all our experiences, everything we've gone through, the good, the bad, the trauma, the ugly. That there's always a reason, I think, why people behave in a certain way, whether it's from the relationship they've come out of, whether it's the way they've been brought up, whether it's the family experiences. I think when we dig hard enough, there is a logical explanation there somewhere, but just often we don't get to know people enough to give them the chance to reveal their true selves, probably.
exactly. It's so true. Going into your career, so you've done a lot of different things. How do you think ADHD showed up maybe as a struggle and a strength during your career and played a part in that?
I think it's interesting because in the army, for example, where I spent, over a decade, I think the army gave me a lot of structure, which is interesting because for me, the ADHD brain lacks a lot of structure. It's quite all over the place, and I think if I didn't go in the army, I'd probably have ended up in a prison cell or a jail or something because I was a chaotic. I was a little tearaway as a kid. I was always like, up to no good. Not like anything ridiculous, but I was always being a nuisance. Antisocial behaviour. I was not far away from things like drugs or crime in my immediate close circles and things as a teenager. So I think if I'd have not joined the army and got that structure, got that discipline, sort of built those important values and things, I probably would have had a very different life. So, because I was very erratic, I was very easily led by people. I was very impulsive. If something was good fun at the time, just roll with it and see what happens, type of person. And then I think since I left the army, it's the ADHD has probably come more to fruition because it's allowed me in the army. You're sort of in that environment where you have to do what you're told, or the system doesn't work. You can't just go and be a free spirit and be a creative or anything.
No.
Whereas, yeah, as a civilian for the last sort of 15 years, I've literally been living life on my own terms and arguably been more successful as a civilian than I was as a soldier in some ways because you're not being compressed into a box. You can just go and the world's your oyster, and you know the the outside world's very different from the military world in lots of different ways.
Have you brought that structure with you into your day to day life now? Do you think it's helped you be a bit more like structured or than you may
I
have
don't know
been?
about the structure because I'm still a bit chaotic sometimes, but I think one thing that I've definitely brought from the military is the values, things like respect, things like courage, discipline, loyalty, selfless commitment, all those important like soft skills in life that when outside of like qualifications or education, the things that I think are going to get you far in life, those yeah, as I say, those softer skills and those values. I think values is something we're often lacking and missing in society. I think, and the military is really good at sort of teaching you and allowing you to harness those values by putting you in difficult situations where it tests your integrity or it tests your courage. The military is really good at that. And going around the world, operating in different environments, living with different cultures, trying different foods, seeing different places, all those are great things for personal growth and development, I think.
100%. What is your opinion on the, school system as it stands? Because from what I see with my clients, the younger clients, we're having, a lot of them are put in these units or eventually leaving school because they just can't fit into the system. What is your opinion on the school system?
Yeah, well, I agree completely. I think that the system as it stands is the same system that we've seen for like 50, 100 years. It's you get like, I don't know, 20 people, you put them in a little square classroom and you put a teacher at the front, and then you sort of regurgitate information backwards and forwards in hope that at the end of that, there'll be an exam and they remember what you told them and then they tick these boxes. And it's so dated and so it's very frustrating, and I always say to kids that, not all classrooms in the world have four walls. Some of the best classrooms I find are called the ocean and the mountains and the
So
countryside. And
true.
yeah, it's like, it's incredible really that we're still trying to, teach kids in these sort of prehistoric ways, because most of the kids that I meet that didn't do well at school, that ended up in places like the military or whatever organization, they're the ones that have excelled. And in fact, I'm a good example, because I left school with no GCSEs, but by the time I'd left the army, I had all my GCSEs, my A levels, foundation degree, bachelor's degree, master's degree. But I'm still that kid who was terrible and didn't get a GCSE. But yet I've done the whole education and more all the way through to the top. And that was because I was learning through the work I was doing. I was actually learning things that I was interested in. I don't think to this day I've ever had to use a Bunsen burner. I've never had to use algebra. I've never Pythagoras theory and all these things that I was like told that I needed to learn to pass my exams. I've never used any of them in 40 years. But have I used things like working out how long it's going to take me to do a marathon, or how much calories I need to put in my body to fuel to do that bit of exercise? They're all things that I learn because they're actually relevant to me. So when you're doing things for real as opposed to doing things because it's theoretical in a textbook, that's a very different way of learning. And I say to like kids, when I was in a school the other day and they were learning about like climate change and pollution on this iPad that they'd all been given. And I was like saying to the teacher, but why don't you take them outside and next to the busy road and watch all the fumes that are coming out of the cars and things, and show them, instead of showing them on a screen of somebody else doing this, why not take them down to like the local tip or the wasteland and show them where that waste goes and how it's being recycled? Because that is much better value to somebody to learn than just sitting in front of a screen, which most kids are doing every day when they're not in school these days. Most kids are sat on an iPad, on social media, on a TikTok or an Instagram. So let's get them outside more while they're in school, because you'll see kids start to flourish. You'll see the best come out of some of these kids. We see it in the Army Cadets. Something I'm going off on a bit of a tangent now, because
I like it.
we see it in the Army Cadets every day. I meet kids every week that are not great at school. Some of them have even been, dare I say, kicked out of school or expelled or detentioned or whatever. But yet these kids are the best cadets that I've ever seen on a parade. They're the smartest, they're the most intelligent, they're the ones that look the best. They've ironed their kit, they've made their own dinner. And that's the same kid that has been kicked out of school because he can't do whatever. And I'm like, there's a disconnect here. If that kid here is volunteering every Tuesday and Thursday night, he's not going out with his friends, he's not getting up to no good, he's not drinking on the park or taking drugs. He's coming to cadets to learn and to develop himself. But yet in school, he's terrible. To me, there's a big disconnect in our system in this country, and we need to do something about it. And we can, people like myself, people who, adventurers or ambassadors for young people like yourself, we have to keep banging that drum and hope that somebody starts to listen eventually, because I'm living proof that you don't need to be the best student in the classroom to go and do all right in life still. Um,
Yeah.
because I think your attitude will take you a lot further than, things like attitude and manners and values will take you a lot further than a qualification that you get in an exam for one day of your life. There's so much more to the world than that. And we put so much pressure on these young people that even when we were kids, it was like the end of the world if you failed your exams. It was like, no, it's not the reality, really. If you've got the right attitude, it doesn't matter if you're good or not at an exam, you will still be able to flourish in life with the right attitude and the right approach to the world.
Oh, I love that message, because I work with obviously a lot of teenagers and parents that are worried because their children aren't getting on in the school system. And I think hearing those messages is exactly what we need to hear, that it's not the be all and end all. And actually the majority of people that come on this podcast haven't gone in school originally until they found something they loved. And then they went on to, some of them are doing PhDs now and in things, and whatever it is that they've decided to go on and do. How do we I suppose as well, talking to parents, especially, and maybe teachers, but how do we get them to find out what it is they love? Because I think for some of us, it's quite obvious. Like at school, I love sport, but I was just always told to focus on the things that I wasn't really good at. But some people that come to me, like parents, go, I just want them to find what it is they love. I don't really care that they're not getting on in school, but they feel stuck in finding that. How would you say, how do we figure that out for children or get them to figure that out?
I think I think what we have to be comfortable with, which again is something that we've lost over the last, I don't know, 10, 20 years, is failure, is like being comfortable with failing at lots of things. There's nothing wrong with it. It's absolutely fine, because that's how you find out what you're good at, what you're not, what you're passionate about. We seem to think this failure thing is like it's the end of the world again, but actually if you're failing at something, you're trying to do something. You take a chance, take a risk, go and try a new hobby, try a new sport. And we have to present young people with lots of opportunities, and in some communities that's very difficult for whatever reasons, lack of funding, crime, social poverty, deprivation. But one of the things that I love about, again, going back to cadets, but there's lots of other organisations like the Scouts, the Girl Guides, the Duke of Edinburgh's Awards. These are all amazing youth organisations that put children and young people in challenging situations, but not to try and make them fail, but to help them grow by making them uncomfortable. We don't put like a group of teenagers on a mountain for the night to camp and feed themselves because we're trying to punish them. We do it because they'll start building great teamwork, they'll start communicating better, they'll start learning how to survive, and they'll start being independent, and they'll do all these skills that you're not going to find sat in your bedroom on your iPad. So I think we have to be comfortable with letting people fail, and the only way we can fail is by trying to do more things. But I also get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because that's where you will grow, that's where the magic starts to happen, that's where the resilience is built. Kids don't do things like we would have done 20 years ago. When I was a kid, it would be like, let's go and climb the trees or build a den or cross the river. Now, with health and safety and all the other restrictions, you can't do a lot of these things for whatever reason. And what we have to remember is things like the great outdoors teach us about risk and resilience. They teach us, it goes back to that, you get burnt once, you don't put your hand in the fire again, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It's like going back to basics, I think. And I also don't want to say anything negative about school, because school is very important, and there is a lot of amazing, dedicated teachers out there who do incredible jobs. But I think one of the challenges that the education professionals face is that they're constantly being judged by results and Ofsted reports and grades, and trying to meet all these ridiculously high targets, that they then can't focus on the individuals who might need a little bit of extra support because they don't have the resources or time. Because I'm sure that if teachers had the time, they would much rather be getting kids outdoors more as well. But they're so
Definitely.
focused on these, very high level grades they've got to achieve for everybody.
I mean, I spoke to someone actually yesterday who in Parliament, and they reckon that they're looking, aren't they, at the the subjects and stuff, and taking a relook at it. But I mean, I wonder how much it will change, because I also think with AI now, why would we be putting so much emphasis on the things that I think usually ADHD children struggle with, like, most of the time, like spelling, writing, maths, or they're not interested most of the time in that stuff, when we've got robots that can do that now anyway. So it seems like a waste of time to keep trying to make people be really good in these just few subjects that aren't actually of great importance to someone's life anymore.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think that I don't know. My belief is always like in all aspects of my life, even today. I like think focus on when I'm like in any business that I'm involved in or project I'm involved in. I always think of, for me, focus on what you're good at and let the people who are good at the other things do that. Because
So true.
I like waste so much time. I'm terrible at maths. I'm terrible with numbers. And like that's why I have an accountant, because I'd waste like months and weeks trying to figure out profits and losses and margins. And why do that when I can just get someone to do it who's an expert in that?
Exactly.
That's
Who
the way
loves
I see
doing that?
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and the failure thing is so important as well, because I think you're right. Like, again, clients come to me, and especially ADHD, late diagnosed, they have this perfectionism within them, but the perfectionism shows up as procrastination because they're scared to get anything wrong. And it's like, how, every vision started with many revisions, and we need to get going to it in order to work out how it's going to, evolve, or what it is we're going to do. And I think people are scared of, stepping in the wrong direction, when actually that's what's still part of it, isn't it?
No, definitely. I think like failure is failure is ultimately what builds resilience. You don't learn grit and determination from winning at everything you do.
No.
You earn it from falling down, from getting things wrong, but then dusting yourself off and getting back up again. That's what strengthens your character as a person. Um, it gives you a lot of clarity as well. I think that when something goes wrong, you're learning what doesn't work, and then you hopefully reset and go again. And that helps with clarity because it helps refine your process. It helps you to focus on your goals. It helps you make better decisions. And it's ultimately failure is the fuel for growth. It's the only way we can grow because for me, every failure is feedback. It exposes the things that you don't know yet, whether that's gaps in your knowledge, whether it's gaps in your skills, your strategy, your approach. And then it forces you. What failure does for me is it forces you to improve. It forces you to adapt. It forces you to overcome. It forces you to evolve and move forward. And that doesn't have to be in a classroom. That can be in business. It can be in love, in relationships, in life. If you
Mm.
keep getting things wrong and failing, you're either going to end up in the same place where you started, but if you take on those lessons, you will hopefully grow and push forward. I know that from relationships that I was making the same mistakes for years and years and years, and my life never got any better. I ended up back to square one every time. And the moment I actually sat down, reflected, and took on expert advice, got a diagnosis, I then was like, right, you're getting older now, Jordan. You need to start taking on some of these lessons because you're going to run out of time soon. And yeah, hopefully I'm on the right path these days.
Good. I love it. And that's what I want to ask you actually, because you've mentioned a lot about like, you feel like you're a bit of, like, got work addiction and also, relationship struggles in the past. And there is a balance between, like we say, we don't want to use ADHD as an excuse and an explanation, but I also think there's an element of unmasking. So how much of it has allowed you to accept the parts of you that are who you are, as opposed to how do you find that balance basically in wanting to improve in those areas, but also not wanting to lose who it is that you are at your core?
I think again it goes back to values. I think if you have strong values and you practice what you're preaching and you're living by those values, I think that it doesn't mean you're going to get everything right in life, but it means that you've got a sort of roadmap that you're trying to stick to. And even when you get things wrong, you're able to quickly bring yourself back on track because your values to me are a bit like your compass, your moral compass. They always let you know if you're doing right and wrong if you have strong values and you're trying to live by them. But I think also when you sort of talk about unmasking yourself, I think there's this responsibility that we all have to take at some point in our lives. And again, you don't have to be an ADHD thing. It's just anyone out there where you look in the mirror one day and you go, do you know what? I'm not happy with what I'm seeing here. I'm not happy with the person I've been or the person I am. And I want to be better. I want to improve in all these different areas. And until you have that tough conversation, which might be emotional, it might be upsetting, it might be not, a lot of people will go their whole lives and avoid those sorts of conversations. But I think if you're prepared to genuinely and authentically look in the mirror and address all the things you're not happy with within yourself, then that is a good starting point for personal growth and a way forward in terms of unmasking the real you and not the world, not the you that everybody else sees through a filter or through, an Instagram account or whatever it is.
Yeah. How might someone who has literally felt like they've lived their whole life pretending to be somebody else, like masking quite a lot, how do they take a first step to figuring out what their real values are if they might believe the values they've been living to aren't actually true to who they are, but they have no clue how to, you know, start figuring that out? What would you say to them?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, yeah, again, it's a lot of hard conversations with yourself about reflection. I think it's okay for values to change as well. I think as we grow up and as we evolve as humans or in our own lives, the values that you had 5 or 10 years ago might be very different values because you've had a lot of different experiences that have taught you lots of things in the last 5 or 10 years. So there's nothing wrong with, sort of resetting or readdressing your values, because your life might have taught you that actually living by those values has not been healthy or successful for you, or your beliefs might have changed based on things you've experienced or seen. So, but I think also sitting down with somebody who you trust, who's not going to judge you, and often that's probably, dare I say, somebody outside of your family and friends, someone who's completely neutral and independent.
Mm.
We have counselors, coaches, psychotherapists, all these types of people who will happily sit there and listen to you without any judgment. Some of them will send you absolutely bonkers, because I've done it myself and sat with lots of counselors over the years and therapists, and you have to find one that you like and you get on with and work with, because some of them you won't. They're just humans at the end of the day. Some of them will rub you up the wrong way. Some of them will challenge you. And again, there's nothing wrong with that either. That you
No.
want someone who's not just going to accept what you say as, you want someone to. I think it's good to be challenged. I think it's healthy. Um, so finding those people in your life who are happy to. I think it's good when people who you trust challenge you and say, because it's coming from a good place. Then it's not about criticizing or pulling you down or being negative towards you. It's about trying to help you. And I think if it's coming from a good place, that's fine. That's okay.
Yeah, I think it's so true. And we're seeing that like coaching, actually, ADHDers are responding a lot better to coaching as opposed to just therapy, because I think where we don't give the answers so much, it's about asking the right questions. We quite like agency, even though we might think we want the answers. Um, and I think we get that momentum, and it's more action taken and progress, isn't it, with a coach? Do you still get coached now? Do you always get coached by people?
No, but I like now and again, I will go and see a therapist, probably once a month now.
Mm,
I say a counselor, I think they call themselves, this particular one. But
yeah,
for me, I don't really see it as a counselor or therapist anymore. I see it as like someone who I have a chat with who's not going to judge me. We often go down to the river and just like have a dip, or in the river, like a bit of
I
cold
love
swimming,
that.
or not even swimming, just dipping, just sitting there chatting in a cold pond. We get some strange looks by people walking the dogs passing by. Um, but yeah, I just sit there with a counsellor lady, and we just sit in the river and chat about life and what's good, what's bad, what's been getting on our nerves, what things are going well. And I think it's just that no judgment environment, willing to sit with someone and just be yourself. I think that's important.
Sorry to interrupt, but are you getting bored of the mundane? Doing the same old thing day in, day out? Me too. It's not good for the old ADHD, that. And that's why I'm running away to the mountains this September to host another ADHD retreat. And I would love you to come. From the 11th to the 15th of September, we are heading to the French Alps, home of the Tour de France, for 5 whole bloody days. And this isn't your typical retreat, because you're not typical. So whether you want to hike mountains at sunrise or sleep through breakfast, there is no right way to do this. All you need to do is come as you are and be as you are. So if you fancy untangling your ADHD with me in the magical mountains this September, head over to untangledco.com and let's get out of here. Something that came to mind when you were talking about that earlier is rejection sensitive dysphoria. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. How has that affected you in your life?
Yeah, well, I'm like somebody, like I'm trying to think of it in a context, an example for you. But for me, my worst fear is failure, is to not be good enough. Like that's probably one of the biggest things in my life is the fear of not being good enough for somebody or for a group or an organization. It's something that has often like brought the best out of me, because I don't want to be failed or be the person who's let someone down. But I also think like with social media as well, like sometimes you get like trolls and you get these negative comments that might come across now and again. And I can have a million good comments. If I get one, I'm honed in straight away to that shit. What have I done? How have I upset this person? I don't ever want to, upset anybody. And like, I don't know why, but my brain will just forget about the million positive things and go to this one little tiny comment, and I can't get it out of my head for days. Um, that again, that fear of being rejected by it for some reason when you don't know why or you don't understand it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a strange one for me.
Yeah, that's it. That's definitely just RSD, isn't it? Because it can be we can get all the compliments, but the one thing that doesn't sound like, even if it's not as extreme as a bad comment, but just not the comment we was looking for, we can then go into like a complete spiral over that and
Yeah.
forget all the
But
good
I
stuff.
try to use it as fuel these days. I try, again, you have to, whatever feedback you're getting in life, whether it's in person or whether it's online, I think you have to evaluate where that feedback's coming from. Is it coming, again, from a constructive place? Or is it just a troll? Is it someone whose opinion doesn't really matter to you? Because again, one thing I've learned is I used to think that everyone's opinion mattered. And if you've got rejection sensitivity disorder, that is pretty dangerous if you think that every comment that everyone makes matters.
You'll
Because
never leave the house.
you're literally right. You wouldn't leave the house. You'd literally be going crazy, because everyone's got an opinion on something these days. And I think, yeah, you have to evaluate where it's coming from. Also, most people in the world, they're not worrying about you or thinking about you. You're nothing but a passing thought in their mind, even though that comment that someone said 2 weeks ago, they've probably forgotten. They don't even realize they said has had any impact on you. And you've been thinking about it for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
To most people, it was like water off a duck's back. It was nothing. It wasn't even meant as anything offensive or anything.
Yeah, it's so true. And do you think like being in the job that you do has helped you build some resilience against RSD? Putting
Yeah, I
yourself
think so.
forward
I
in front.
think, when you not, I'm not really into sort of like celebrity culture or fame or anything like that. But I've had some great opportunities. I still work on television, and with that, with anything that you do, what you're putting yourself out in the public domain with a public profile, whether it's writing books or being on a TV show, you have to almost accept that there will be critics. People will want to have a pop at you. People will want to put you down. And there are lots of angry, disgruntled people in the world who want to be negative, and that's all they ever do. And I try to block out a lot of that noise. If it's very easy for me. I used to get really offended by things, but now I just block, delete, and I forgot about you.
So good.
And it
Yeah.
comes with the territory. I think if it's somebody like my parents or somebody like yourself who's got something constructive to say, well, then I'm going to listen and take that on board. And sometimes we will get things wrong and we won't be right. And I think it's important that, because ADHD sometimes won't allow for me, I go into defensive mode. If someone's coming at me to criticize me, straight away I go into self-preservation defensive mode, like, why?
Yeah.
But actually, if it's coming from a good place, you need to learn to listen, because actually that might help you grow. It might help you evolve and be a better person or a better human or a better friend or whatever it might be.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's like a zooming out method as well, isn't it? Like I always say, is it going to matter in a week, a month, a year? Because sometimes as well, we can zoom. So I think with ADHD, we're zooming in on that one little thing all the time. We forget to see the bigger picture, don't we? So I'm going to go into a few fire questions. If you could go back, would you have a life with or without ADHD?
I think I would keep it. I think it's like crazy. It's chaos. It's mental in lots of ways, but it's mine. It's still me, and I think I'm happy with me and who I am.
Love that. What's one mask that you've ditched and feel more like yourself now? Has allowed you to feel more like yourself?
I think the biggest mask that I've ditched is pretending that I've got it all figured out and that I actually know what is going on in this world.
And that's so freeing. to,
Yeah,
to
I
be
think
like, I haven't got a fucking clue, neither has
no,
anybody.
literally, I think we're all winging it at every level.
Yeah,
Like presidents of countries who are winging it, So
exactly.
who am I to be like trying to overthink things?
That's so true. When do you feel most like you?
I feel most like me when I'm in the outdoors, normally in the sea or on a mountain or something. I feel when there's no phones, no filters, just immersed in nature. I feel like, yeah, this is me.
Yeah, I think the mountains are a great way to put everything in perspective, don't you think? Like make
Yeah,
you
definitely.
realize how
I
small
call
we
it like,
actually are.
yeah, definitely. And I think mountains are great because also one, obviously there's the great achievement when you get to the top, you feel like you got that sense of accomplishment or achievement, but there's like this, the solitude, the peace, the clarity. I call it when I'm in the mountains like green therapy, and then blue therapy when I'm in the sea. It's like real
I
natural
like that.
therapy, I think.
Yeah, I love that. Um, so talking of mountains, the next question, what order would you put these in? So beach, jungle, mountain, and forest.
Definitely the beach first, and not necessarily for the actual sand of the beach, but because I just love the sea. I love it being on it, in it, around it. I think it's got like proper medicinal value to just the waves, everything I just love about the ocean. The ocean first, probably forest. Forest is quite peaceful and serene, and then yeah, mountains. In fact, I'm going to go beach, mountains, and forest equal second, and jungle third. Jungle is quite. especially if you've been in the military, jungle is quite a relentless place to be. You can't see
Yeah.
very far in front of you. You've got a canopy over your head from all the trees. There's a lot of weird and wonderful creatures in there that you can't really get any proper sleep from. So jungle would definitely be my last one.
Yeah. Where's your favourite country you visited?
Um, lots of favourite countries. I love the Horn of Africa, so around sort of Somalia, Djibouti, and places. But do you know? I think I don't really have. I have like favorite people as opposed to favorite places,
Hmm.
and I think if I'm with my favorite people, then I'm in my favorite place.
Oh, I love that. That's
Because I
such a
think
good answer.
if you're with good people, you can be anywhere in the world.
It's so true.
Because you could be. I think like you imagine like you go to like one of these like 5-star luxury Maldives resorts or like Seychelles or something, and you're with someone who you're not really clicking with on a maybe in a relationship or something. It could be the most glamorous place in the world, but the person you're with, you're not happy.
No, you're like, get
So,
me out doing
yeah,
laps
get
around
me
the
out of here.
beach.
I don't want to spend another 4 days with you on this beach. So I think if you're with the right people, then that should be your favorite place in the world, wherever you are with the good people.
Love a great answer. What does success look like to you now?
Success now for me is finding peace. It's like being calm and balanced and not having stress or not chasing something all the time that's going to like destroy my health. Or I think just trying to have a positive impact on other people's lives, especially young people. But I think peace is really important, and trying to. I got a 15-year-old daughter, and we have our own challenges with each other sometimes. But I think trying to have a better relationship and trying to, wanting to see pride in my daughter's eyes about the stuff that I'm doing, and seeing her do well. For me, it'll be a great success if she goes and does well in life. And when I say do well, I don't mean materially. I just mean happy, healthy, and sort of beaming.
Yeah, definitely. What's something you wish more people knew and understood about ADHD?
Good question. What do I wish more people understood about ADHD? I think I would get people to understand that it's not about being distracted. It's about feeling and trying to understand everything that's going on. In fact, it's the opposite of being distracted. It's the opposite of attention deficit. It's actually you are taking in everything at 100 miles an hour and you're trying to process it, and your brain's doing sort of like somersaults and whirls and all sorts, trying to understand and break down everything very quickly. So it's not about being distracted, it's about feeling everything and trying to understand everything all at once, I think, for me.
Yeah, definitely. That is one of the biggest misconceptions, I think. What's one word you would describe ADHD as in one word?
Relentless.
Yeah. Relentless. And what is it that you're still untangling about your ADHD?
I think it's probably about feeling good about yourself. It's about like appreciating that you're not perfect, but I think you're trying your best. It's about like self-worth, knowing that you've done a lot and you're trying to help people, but you don't owe the world anything. It's like just be you. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. You don't have to appease anyone else. Whatever you're doing, you're choosing to do. So I think it's about self-worth. For me, I've done a lot of things, but it's trying to learn to believe that you should feel good about it. You shouldn't be doing it because you feel like you owe the world something. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that does. Do you feel like you skip over your achievements without celebrating them
oh,
quite a lot?
100%, 100%. Like, I've been very fortunate and privileged to have lots of amazing, accolades, awards, recognition. And to be very honest, I've in the last 3 or 4 years, lots of like award ceremonies and things. I've actually pulled myself out of them and, politely and respectfully, because I don't want to be put on a pedestal for you're amazing, you've done this, this, and this, because that is not why I've done it. I've done it to try and help some kids or to help provide opportunities. And for me, I think it takes away from the good you're trying to do. Things like, for example, being appointed an MBE. That's really important because for me, that allows me to go and do more things for other people. But to like, with respect to be winning like a local, I don't know, business awards or something, I don't really see how that helps me. It doesn't help me help other people, if that makes sense. But whereas
Mm.
getting an MBE, that was something that was really like a real proud moment with my family, because that will allow me to be taken more seriously as a fundraiser, as somebody who's trying to help people, because you've been recognized at the highest level for the work you're doing. Whereas to be recognized locally is amazing and it's a great thing, and take nothing away from it. But I don't see how that's going to have a positive impact on the people that I'm trying to help.
Yes. So your deeper why is always rooted back in, is this good for me? But also, is this good for other people at the same time? Is that how
Yeah, and
you
I
sort of
think
make
if you're trying to live
decisions?
or if you're trying to do whatever you're doing authentically, you've always got to go back to that why. It's
Yeah.
great, of course, it's amazing if I get to go up on a stage and everyone's clapping and shouting, "Well done, Jordan." That's a dopamine hit, isn't it? That's just like
Yes, yeah.
that's all that is. It's a dopamine hit. But if like to be appointed an MBE and then to go, to the palace or wherever, and then to then be able to attract more funding for cadets or more opportunities for the local scout group because you're more credible to a donor or a potential funder because of what you've done in your past, then that gives you, there's a bigger picture there. Um,
Definitely.
but for me to go and get a dopamine hit on stage for a night and get some free drinks, it's not serving me. Don't get me wrong though. There's a purpose and a place for that. If I'm trying to set up a new business and I want some recognition for my company or for my podcast or whatever it is, that's all great stuff because it's PR, it's marketing, it's everyone making a noise about whatever your business or brand is. So I'm certainly not saying it's a bad thing. It's
Mm.
just that in my why and what I'm trying to get to, it's not the time now for me to be chasing that
Be
sort of
doing
thing.
that. Yeah, it's not aligned with what your mission is at the moment.
Yeah,
Um, I do think though that is important, and especially for individuals with ADHD, because I think when we are chasing, like you said, we can be the can't stop, won't stop, and sometimes the dopamine is leading us, and we don't actually even know that, and we can achieve great things. And if we don't have a deeper why like that, then that's when we have these come downs and we go and chase things that are really unhealthy for us. So I think it's so important
definitely.
to know and understand that. Um,
I
because you,
couldn't
like you
agree
say,
more.
get an award and then all of a sudden you're not the favorite anymore and you're not getting awards. And then what happens?
Yeah, no, and I really agree with that. And I think one of like something I've seen actually with a lot of very successful entrepreneurs and business leaders. And for me, it's like the epitome of failure is to be super successful, whether it's financially, whether it's accolades, awards, but then to feel completely unfulfilled at the end of that journey
Yeah,
is like, that's like what failure looks like to me. I think success and failure are at the opposite ends. Sorry, success and fulfillment, pardon me, are the opposite ends of the spectrum. Because a lot of the things that I get fulfillment from, they don't give me any money. Nobody's clapping me or giving me a thank you at the end of the day or whatever. The best things in my life right now are going to a cadet camp to help 20 kids that come from a challenging backgrounds or struggling at home or in school, and sitting there for a few hours with them, whether we're teaching them to make a campfire, teaching them how to map read, do some first aid, and then for one of them just to turn around and give me a fist bump at the end of it, that is much more fulfilling for me than going on a stage to collect an award right now.
it's
That
so
is
true.
so
It's the
different.
stuff that people don't see, isn't it? That becomes the most rewarding
Yeah.
in the
But
end.
don't get me wrong, 15 years ago, I'd be chasing that award to get on that stage. I'd been like, I
Mm,
need to build my whatever profile or business. I need everyone to think how great I am. And that's it's a bit of a toxic cycle to get stuck in where I've been there where you're seeking external validation from everything you do. Social media it's like a minefield for this validation seeking
definitely.
persona
And
that
so addictive, isn't it,
yeah,
for people?
and we've all got a bit of that in us. I don't care who you are, at what level of status you are in society. We've all got a little bit of that. We want people to like us. We want people to give us a thumbs up or a love heart or a nice comment. We've all got that in us. And
Yeah.
when I asked a question in schools last year when I was doing some research, and in an assembly I said, put your hands up if you, this is in a high school, put your hands up if you've got a social media account, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. And like 100% of the kids in this year nines they were put their hands up, so they're all about 14. And I said to them, who in here has ever put a picture online on their social media and then because it didn't get enough likes, remove that picture? And 100% of them put their hands up.
Oh,
Yeah, and it's like that is the challenge we have in society.
so
We're
true.
looking for that external validation, not from the people we love who sit next to us having our dinner, but from complete strangers who we've never met and we don't know. And that is the battle of society today, that we all want to be told we're great. We all want to be told that's an amazing picture. And the other challenge to that is we're now encouraged to put a filter, to look picture perfect in everything we put online, to compare ourselves to the people next door who look like they're having the best life ever, and ours is really miserable and boring. And it's a very complex world for teenagers and young people right now as a result of social media, I think.
So true. Yeah, it's honestly so true. And I just literally wrote a piece about this because I had some body, eating disorders, and I've been like working through that and sharing it for these reasons. Like people are on social media and we're wanting to be liked by people that really don't matter, people that don't even, the people that I wanted to lose weight for and feel enough for years ago. I don't even know where they live now. I haven't got their
Yeah.
numbers. The people that I felt made important in my head. And it can have such a detrimental impact on the, teenagers' lives when they're trying to compete in this online world for people that aren't going to make any difference to their lives anyway.
No, exactly. It's quite dangerous.
It's missing the most important parts, the things that are important to us that are right in front of us most of the time. So any final words to someone who might be struggling right now? And I think probably like what you needed to hear in those moments because you've spoke a lot about when you struggled with your own mental health and your ADHD without, undiagnosed ADHD. So what would you want to say to someone who's at that stage right now?
I think I would say to somebody who might be struggling right now, or to anyone who is feeling lost or stuck or feeling that they're failing at something, I would want them to know that it's perfectly fine to not have it all figured out. It doesn't matter. It's not the end of the world, because some of the most beautiful parts of life begin right in the mess when it's all going wrong. And understand that you're not behind, you're not too much, you're not too late, you're enough just as you are. One of my favorite quotes actually is, I often write it in books for people, is some of the most challenging roads lead to the most beautiful destinations in the end.
I love that.
And I think it's true, isn't it? Because when we're going through hell and it feels like you can't even see the end of the day because things are that tough for us. But then when we look back in 6, 12, 2 years' time, that had to happen to get where we are now. Because without that adversity, without that tragedy, without that heartbreak, without that mess, without that job we lost, whatever it was, got us to the place eventually where we can look back and smile and go, do you know what? That was because of that I got here.
100%. I think growth just doesn't happen without messy moments, does it really? It's within the messy moments that it happens. So
yeah.
Thank you so much. This has been amazing. And is there anything else you want to share about where, what you're up to and where people can find you? I mean, I'm sure everyone knows where to find you. But...
please, you can find me on social media. My handle is at Mr. Jordan Wylie. My website's jordanwyllie.org. I'm going to Antarctica later this year. I'm trying to raise £100,000 for the Army Cadet charity that provide life-changing opportunities to young people. So if you've got any penny spare and you're listening to this, please do donate. It's going to a great cause.
Yes. Oh God, keep doing all this amazing work. It's so brilliant. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, Rosie, and keep up the amazing work. Keep spreading that positive message.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me on the ADHD Untangled podcast. I hope that these episodes are inspiring you to step forward with confidence despite the struggles that you face with ADHD. If you want to find out more about ADHD coaching, retreats, trainings, then check out my Instagram, ADHD_untangled, or my website, untangledco.com. Let's get untangled and show the world what we are made of.